The call to the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'd like to commend the member for Lindsay for putting this motion together. Firstly, Deputy Speaker, I am a great believer in free markets. I believe, Deputy Speaker, that the free market is the greatest force that we've ever had in human history to create opportunity for the working class, to create a middle class, to uplift the poor, to create prosperity and to grow wealth, Deputy Speaker. And I, someone who's probably more of this parliament than anyone, believes too many times, Deputy Speaker, that government regulation gets in the way of that free market and actually have adverse effects. But, Deputy Speaker, with one exception. What we call competition law here in Australia, or what they call antitrust law in the USA. Unless we get competition law and antitrust law right, all the workings of the free markets, all the benefits that we have from the free market, simply we miss out on, Deputy Speaker. So quite perhaps paradoxically, I believe that we need strong competition law, we need strong or antitrust law, as they call it in the USA, to make sure those regulations are effective, to make sure that we get the benefits from the free market. Now, Deputy Speaker, I believe for the last several decades, we in this country have got competition law wrong on both sides of the House. We've had too many people, long on theory, but short on practice, deciding what's best for Australian competition law. We've seen an ideology, Deputy Speaker, that sometimes big is better, that there's these endless economies of scale. Of course, Deputy Speaker, as our history tells us, that's the same mistake Stalin made. And perhaps, Deputy Speaker, nowhere did we get this more incorrectly was actually we go back to the previous Dawson inquiry. Now, the Dawson inquiry got many things wrong, Deputy Speaker. Firstly, they got wrong the basic concepts of predatory pricing, price discrimination, geographic price discrimination. They simply did not understand those concepts, and they simply failed to understand the history, Deputy Speaker, of those provisions, how they came about, the reasons why they were there. But most of all, Deputy Speaker, what they got wrong was firstly they said that consumers are benefiting from competition. At that time, Deputy Speaker, if you looked at the grocery industry, which was one of the most discussed during that time, if anybody had taken the opportunity or the time to look at the inflation figures from the OECD, they would have discovered that the rate of food inflation in Australian supermarkets was higher than just about any other developed country in the world, Deputy Speaker. Prices were accelerating at the Australian supermarket checkout faster than anywhere else in the world, and yet we had the previous review said there were no problems. What the Dawson inquiry also got wrong, Deputy Speaker, is that they said that Section 46 of the Act, the Old Trade Practices Act, the misuse of market power provision, was, and I quote, the appropriate means to tackle anti-competitive price discrimination. Well, Deputy Speaker, several cases after that showed that conclusion was completely wrong. I'd like to quote quickly the comments of Justice Kirby dissenting in the Melway decision. He said, with respect, the result of the analysis of the joint reasons of this court does not protect or promote competition or the competitive process. It stifles it. This is the third recent decision of the court, Melway and Boral-Bessemer, and Mel being the other two, in which the majority has adopted an unduly narrow view of Section 46 of the Act. In my view, the approach taken by the majority is insufficiently attentive to the object of the Act to protect and uphold market competition. It is unduly protective of the depredations of the corporations concerned. It is unrealistic, bordering on the ethereal, when the corporate conduct is viewed in its commercial and practical setting. The outcome cripples the effectiveness of Section 46 of the Act. The victims are Australian consumers and competitors who seek to engage in competitive conduct in their naive faith in the protection of the Act. Deputy Speaker, Justice Kirby was exactly right, because the current Act does not protect consumers. With the highest rates of food inflation, and by any logical international comparison of our basic food prices, whether it be a bottle of Coca-Cola, Deputy Speaker, or a jar of Vegemite, or a jar of margarine, Australian consumers are paying much, much higher prices. The simple reason, Deputy Speaker, is because we allow price discrimination in this country. We have no effective provision against price discrimination. So what happens in this country, which would be unlawful in many other jurisdictions in the world, large companies are able to go to those suppliers and demand rebates. The rebates only go to the two largest suppliers in the market. The rebates, Deputy Speaker, simply become a cost of doing business, which then gets added onto that wholesale price, which is the reason why we have the highest prices in the world, Deputy Speaker. Just look at a bottle of Coca-Cola. $4 in Australia, it's half the price almost everywhere else in the world. The reason is because of the rebates and anti-competitive price discrimination.